Bitcoin has outperformed pretty much every other cryptocurrency as a store of value since 2018.
The transactions are too slow, and whenever you adopt a solution such as I said before, the Lightning networking, you are removing a lot of the interesting features of Bitcoin that made it very attractive in the beginning.
35 validators in XRP, and there's thousands of miners in Bitcoin, and that number is just exponentially growing.
The time for life-changing gains on Bitcoin, it's over a long time ago.
If Bitcoin is the beta test coin and XRP is the real coin, then why is XRP missing ledgers while Bitcoin isn't?
If everyone on Earth would use Bitcoin, they could only do 2 transactions at a lifetime.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have 2 amazing guests and one incredible show planned out. We have Edo and Rajat. Edo, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow because I know you are in Dubai, so we're going to have some coffee. That's for sure. And Rajat, I'm going to see you in Vegas, hopefully, for the Bitcoin conference. How are you doing, man?
Doing great, doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, guys, for sharing your time and your knowledge. I'm super excited about this. We're going to discuss XRP and Bitcoin. Let's jump into it. Edo, do you mind to give us an intro and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I am a very vocal voice on the XRP community. I am also the head of social adoption for 2 projects. One is the XRP Healthcare, and the other one is called Monerex with the native token MXI. Both projects are built on top of the XRP ledger, so I have specialized mostly on XRP in the last years. I also have an online crypto academy. It's called the Alpha Lions Academy. And basically, I could argue that crypto flows through my veins, especially XRP.
Rajat, if you don't mind, can you do the same and give us a little bit of an intro about you?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Rajat. I used to work in finance for almost 10 years. I've been focusing on Bitcoin. I was learning about crypto, all these other cryptocurrencies before. I started focusing more on Bitcoin once I realized the real problems that it solves and how it can actually fix the world. Like, let's say, for example, the way that I see it, Bitcoin will make it so that real estate is demonetized. More people can access real estate. And I've been really focusing on that. I built a YouTube channel. I built a Twitter following. I've just been focusing on this for almost 4 years. And I've just been working as hard as I can. I think I've put in probably 6,000 hours into studying Bitcoin alone.
Why do you think you should invest in XRP and not in Bitcoin?
Well, from my perspective, I think the time for life-changing gains on Bitcoin, it's over a long time ago. We were discussing just for yourself, for example, you bought in 2013, and I think that was a great entry for Bitcoin. However, we're looking at almost 10 years later, and right now it's sitting at $96,000. And I have made this analogy when Bitcoin was at $50,000 and XRP, for example, was at 50 cents, and I have said to everyone that the chances that XRP are going to get to, let's say, $2 are far greater, or actually the returns are far greater than Bitcoin moving from 50,000 to 100,000. That's actually a 2x. If we actually measure from the previous all-time high, I think it was $69,000 in the previous bull run. And if you take inflation into account and we look at Bitcoin's price today, you can actually measure that the gains are very slim, especially compared to other digital assets. For example, I'm not a maximalist, so I can quote a few more digital assets besides XRP, but the gains with XRP were much more substantial. Now, I have been an investor in Bitcoin myself. I didn't get as early as 2013 as it was your case. However, I sold my car back in 2017, 2018 is when I first invested in the beginning of the year. And well, it was an interesting ride from, let's say, $15,000 to $70,000. But I think the opportunity for life-changing gains, as I said, it's over a long time ago. Unless you are a hedge fund, unless you are a leverage trader, I don't think the average investor can actually get rich by buying small fractions of Bitcoin.
I don't agree at all. I think the best is ahead of us. I think going forward, we're going to see a lot more adoption than we saw in the last, 15 years. 95% of the world still doesn't understand how Bitcoin works. Like, if we talk to the people around us, if I talk to my family, my friends, none of them really understand Bitcoin other than the people that I've talked to. Most people have no idea what it is. Most people don't understand what the problem is that it solves. Also, I mean, I wouldn't really agree that Bitcoin's returns have been lower than XRP's, because XRP has pretty much, it hit an all-time high in 2018, came back down, went back up, didn't really hit that all-time high again, then it came back down, then it went back up. So technically, if you adjust for inflation, XRP has lost a ton of money. Actually, it's still below that all-time high that it hit in 2021. So I don't quite agree with the gains side of things. Um, I also have a very, very long time horizon with Bitcoin. I have at least a 10, 15-year time horizon. I don't really care about the fiat price. I don't care if it moves sideways for the next 10 years. My goal here is to retire with Bitcoin, because I think that Bitcoin is going to be the money of the world. I don't really care about the fiat price fluctuations as much as a lot of people, because I see that this is going to change the entire world. It's going to replace the current financial system. It's going to replace the way that money works today by being something that's scarce, by making it so that we no longer have to, like I said before, we no longer have to buy houses as an investment. We no longer have to buy stocks that we really don't understand, blindly invest in index funds. That's the majority of what people are doing today. The majority of people are buying assets blindly because they want to make gains quickly. Bitcoin is going to be volatile along the way, but because of its adoption, I do think it's going to outperform everything, including XRP, including the majority of altcoins.
When it comes to crypto and Bitcoin, there is a saying, Bitcoin is not crypto, or Bitcoin is different from every other crypto. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO. It doesn't have a foundation. It doesn't have a company backing it. There's no SEC lawsuits against it. There's no question that it's not a security. Bitcoin is a commodity. Anybody can produce it from their homes, just like gold. Let's say, for example, if you found gold in your backyard, you could dig it up. That's just how it works. Anybody can get Bitcoin. Anybody can mine Bitcoin from home. I know the chances of it are very low. Of course, there are institutional miners that are trying to compete for a block reward. You may not be able to compete with them. You may not be able to win a block reward just with a solo miner, but the possibility is there. The chances for anybody to be able to mine for Bitcoin, the chances for anybody to be able to run a Bitcoin node are there. I mean, it costs $300 or something to run a Bitcoin node from home. So I would say that Bitcoin is completely separate from crypto. Bitcoin had the immaculate conception where it was made without anybody really controlling it. I would say the way that I see, I don't know if I said that right, but the way that I see it, there's no ruling foundation. There's nobody in the middle who can be sued. On the other hand, with a lot of cryptocurrencies, actually every single cryptocurrency is centralized, and I would even say that XRP is centralized. Bitcoin has the smallest number of the Bitcoin has the smallest amount of supply centralized with one person. On the other hand, with something like XRP, 80% of it was handed over to Ripple right in the beginning. 20% of it was handed to the executives. I don't know the exact numbers there, but I know the majority of it was handed over to a small group of people. There's also the fact that with Bitcoin, you can confirm the ledger whenever you want to. You can go through, you can see every single transaction that's ever happened. You can confirm the production of every single Bitcoin. You can see when it was created. You can see how the person who created it, you can see whether or not they used the right amount of energy to create it, whether they competed with everybody else. Every single Bitcoin that was created used time, effort, energy to produce. On the other hand, every other cryptocurrency, the majority of other cryptocurrencies didn't. They were pre-mined. They were created out of nothing. Why would you want to hold something that's created out of nothing?
There are some points that I disagree with him. The first is that Bitcoin is different from other cryptocurrencies. I think when we look to blockchain, it's just a sophisticated database. That's the major difference from crypto to, let's say, a traditional database where the blocks document the state changes. So if we look for the technical perspective of Bitcoin, there is basically nothing that Bitcoin blockchain can do that other mainstream blockchains aren't capable of achieving, even in better ways. We can discuss these points later about the technical capabilities. The second, I think it's saying that it doesn't come out of thin air. I would make a comparison, and maybe he can answer to me that, because I really can't see how is BTC different from dollars. I mean, from the sense of that Tether acts as the Federal Reserve of digital currencies. So basically, you have a direct correlation between the price of Bitcoin with the price of new Tethers that are minted out of thin air, in the same way that fiat currencies are printed by the Federal Reserve. You have a very similar pattern where the price of Bitcoin goes up based on the Tether printing rather than an actual utility for the token. So we can't say that the price is going up because there is high demand for Bitcoin, but most of the cases is going up because they are minting more Tether, which is not backed by anything tangible. So we see an asset that is driven by market speculation and also the fact that some claim is a store of value. That's very relative. It might be a store of value for someone who purchased Bitcoin in 2013, but it might not be a store of value from someone that's buying on the 9th of February of 2025, because as we know, the crypto still has ups and downs. You can see the price going down up to 20 to 30%. So we can also put under threat the fact that Bitcoin is considered a store of value. And well, I don't mean only Bitcoin, all cryptos suffer from volatility. But I think on the future, we're going to have a division from the ones that are actually driven by real world demand, when the price is going to move up because the asset has a utility on the real world, just like is the case for XRP, versus the assets that move based on speculation. And just to conclude, I think some of the flaws that Bitcoin has nowadays, I think we can discuss in the next questions, but that also limits adoption, because if every person on earth would actually use BTC as a layer one, I think they could perform perhaps 2 or 3 transactions on the lifetime. So I don't see how Bitcoin can scale up for mass adoption.
I don't quite agree that that Bitcoin can be created out of thin air, like the dollar. Of course, the dollar you can create as many of it as you want to. There's no schedule for how many dollars can be created. With Tether, the reason why there's more Tether being printed is because people want it. People around the world want to use it. They want to use it for transactions. As more people want to use it, they want the peg to $1 to remain. If more Tethers aren't printed, if demand goes up, more Tethers aren't printed, we see what happens with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's price goes up because the supply can't be increased. If demand increases and supply doesn't go up, Bitcoin's price goes up. We'll see the same thing with Tether if billions of dollars of Tether aren't printed. And it's not necessary that Tether is the reason why Bitcoin is going up, because companies like MicroStrategy aren't using Tether to buy Bitcoin. BlackRock isn't buying Bitcoin with Tether. Fidelity isn't buying Bitcoin with Tether. So that really has nothing to do with it. Tether is just from what I know, it has an algorithmic. It's an algorithmic stable coin. They have to create more. I don't know the exact details. Correct me if I'm wrong on there, but they have to create more in order to make sure that the price doesn't depeg. And I think that's a really important point that I think Edo may have missed there. Okay, so the second one, store of value, need to hold it for very long. I only started buying Bitcoin in 2022. I can tell you that right up front. I started studying Bitcoin in 2020. I started buying in 2022. And for me, it's done great. It's done absolutely amazing. I'm from the traditional finance world, and I know that traditional finance people have the most of the money. They have money tied up in stocks. They have money tied up in real estate. So to them, 50% a year is absolutely insane because they've never seen that before. They've never seen Bitcoin giving those kinds of returns. Also, I would say that Bitcoin has outperformed pretty much every other cryptocurrency as a store of value since 2018. How much? What was XRP at in 2018? $3 near the end of 2017, early 2018. XRP was at $3. Bitcoin was at something like 5,000, 6,000. I don't remember what the exact price was, but it's massively outperformed XRP. It's up like 18 times or something. I don't know. Again, I don't know the exact numbers there. It's up 15 to 18 times, but to somebody who's just holding on to it since 2018, if you had held Bitcoin as a store of value versus XRP as a store of value, you'd have done much, much better. Your purchasing power would have increased. A store of value is just something that people use to save value for the future because they know that it's not going to be debased. If something can be debased, then why would they hold it as a store of value? The fact that Bitcoin has that finite supply, the fact that nobody can create more of it out of thin air makes it that store of value because people see that it can be used as money. It can be used as money in the future, at some point in the future. Store of value is just a stage in the transition of a commodity from being a collectible to a unit of account. So it goes from collectible to store of value to medium of exchange to unit of account. Bitcoin is just in one of those stages. As more people want to own it, as more people adopt it, the price will go up because of that store of value phase. And over time, it'll transition to a medium of exchange and unit of account. I think the utility of Bitcoin is also there. You can use it to transact on the Bitcoin blockchain. That's the key. That's the main thing there. There's no real life utility because Bitcoin separates money from real life utility. You use Bitcoin to buy things. That's what utility actually means. Okay, and the last point there, scaling up. Bitcoin scaling up pretty fine from what I know. Transaction fees were nearly zero just a few days ago. Even today, they're extremely low. I don't think we need to increase the size of the blockchain. On top of that, I know over time more and more people are going to want to use Bitcoin. But if you think about it, how many people are sending wire transfers today? People are using things like Visa, MasterCard. They're using those layers on top of the base layer in order to be able to scale, in order to have those faster transactions. So with Bitcoin, we have Lightning, we have Liquid. I don't know how much better they'll get in 10, 20, 30 years as more people adopt Bitcoin, as there's more of a need to scale up Bitcoin. Those technologies will just get better. And I think scaling up will not be a problem at all. What we want on the base layer is security and decentralization. We don't need to scale on the base layer.
Yes, one of the key features is security and decentralization. But when you add a layer 2, just like is the case for Lightning Network, you remove a lot of the attractive keys that made Bitcoin something great in the first point. And second, it's very interesting that most times the people who are in Bitcoin, they ignore the initial idea of Satoshi Nakamoto. So if you see the white paper, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, well, it should tell a lot that you should know about Bitcoin. It's supposed to be a currency. It was created as a decentralized currency. So the fact that nowadays it has a shift in the narrative where people more talk about it as a store of value is first, in my opinion, is a recognition that it has failed as a currency. And then you have XRP, in the case that was created by early Bitcoin developers, Jed McCaleb, Arthur Brito, and David Schwartz, understood some of the technical flaws of BTC and decided to create a better way of payments, a better way to actually execute decentralized peer-to-peer payments, which is called the XRP ledger. One more point is I think he said that most cryptocurrencies are centralized. Well, that's not inherently true. In the case of the XRP ledger, the majority actually has the votes, just like on BTC, mining pools can take decisions over the network if they reach 51% consensus. The same is true on the XRP ledger. So if you get the majority of validators to agree on a transaction, so if you have over 80%, which right now is 28 out of the 35 validators, you do have the possibility to make changes on the XRP ledger, and the same is true for Bitcoin. So that's how decentralized systems operate. So I would argue that it's a misconception that people call XRP a centralized currency.
We, of course, seen a lot of speculation because of the new administration in the US, Trump winning the election. And there's been a lot of rumors about this stockpile, which initially is supposed to be only Bitcoin, but now apparently they opened the idea or they entertained the idea to maybe have different other digital assets. So this one is for you, Edo. Why do you think XRP should be considered to be held by the US government?
Well, first I want to disclosure something. I think there's a lot of misconceptions that Bitcoin investors and XRP investors should be enemies. I think by default, Bitcoiners are my natural allies for the simple reason that they distrust the government. I just think that they just don't distrust the government enough. So that's being said, I think the reason why XRP is a better fit for the digital stockpile, and we can also talk about the strategic reserve, which is a different thing, is because by the end of the day, XRP has an utility. So there is a primary reason why the US government might want to accumulate XRPs. And the reason is that if XRP is to actually fulfill its original role, which was created by the three architects of the XRP ledger, and one of the original goals that Ripple had for XRP, and just pointing out, I'm mentioning Ripple here, that do own a percentage of the tokens, but ownership of tokens doesn't equal control over the networking. So I think that's something very interesting and something very important for to understand. So they always designed XRP to become a world reserve currency. So you can look up for Ripple in the past. They always said that was the original goal for XRP. So the fact that the US government might be accumulating XRP, I think that opens for the possibility of replacing Nostro Vostro accounts. So they can set up XRP as a reserve currency. And the fact that they might implement CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, which, if you ask me, I am 100% against CBDCs, but I think ultimately it's going to be implemented. So we have two choices. Either you invest on the infrastructure where this new technology is going to run, and by that I mean ledgers that have capabilities to execute thousands of transactions per second. That's the case of the XRP ledger. Or you become a late adopter down the road. So you have these two possibilities. And the fact that the US government is required to own a percentage of XRPs, I think, is the key reason why XRP is set to be on the digital stockpile. Because if you're going to have a CBDC down the road, you need to have XRPs locked in. You need to have central banks holding substantial portions, substantial amounts of XRP. So we're going to unlock millions or trillions of dollars in liquidity. That's the purpose of replacing Nostro Vostro accounts. And I think that's the end goal for XRP. So it makes perfect sense that XRP is the fit for the digital stockpile.
I don't agree. I mean, from what I know about XRP, the fact that, so I was watching a video from Brad Garlinghouse. He said himself that you don't actually need to hold XRP. You can, as a bank, you can convert to XRP. Okay, so the point of XRP, correct me if I'm wrong here, the point of XRP is to be able to convert into XRP from your currency, send it to someone, and then they can convert it to another currency. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's 100% correct. The conversion takes time in these 3 seconds. And of course, by the end result, so let's say you are sending euros, you are sending all the way to South America, let's say in Argentinian pesos. The transaction takes time in these 3 seconds where XRP is moving the capital. And of course, it can be converted back to the local currency. That's the whole point. Just to clarify, that's the definition of global reserve currency is that it has to be held by central banks. It has to be held by institutions like the IMF or the Bank of International Settlement. So the point I'm trying to make here is that to use XRP, no, you don't need to actually hold it. And that actually, I'll bring something to light here. That doesn't make the XRP's price a great favor, by the way, because people can actually transact, and they, like, let's say a financial institution is sending millions of dollars in XRP, they can send in 3 seconds and right away they can sell to the destination currency. But the point I'm trying to make it is to fulfill the role of a reserve currency, it has to be held by central banks, and that's how they intend to replace the Nostro Vostro accounts.
So why would central banks hold it if you don't need to hold it? If you just need to use it for transactions, why would central banks want to hold it?
I'm saying from the role of a world reserve currency, then they definitely need to hold. Maybe not from the technical perspective, but they do need, if XRP is going to fill a role at a world reserve currency, then it's mandatory that central banks will need XRP in their balance sheets.
what if the world doesn't accept it as the reserve currency? Because number one, it's been printed out of thin air. Number two, there's 36,000 or 32,569 missing ledgers. So what happened is the first 500 or so transactions are missing. Nobody knows what happened with them. What if central banks don't like it because of that? Because let's say, for example, if I were to give you an example of this, let's say I were to borrow money from let's say I were to borrow money from a bank, or I were to deposit money at a bank, and the bank's records are wiped, and they just tell me, "Hey, trust me trust me on your balance. I'm right. Don't worry. I have your best interests at heart." Would you trust the bank? If you had your savings in that bank account, would you trust that bank to just maintain the ledger even if they lost it? Like, I personally wouldn't. Why would I trust a ledger that can't even maintain itself? That doesn't make any sense. I know people say that, oh, it's the beginning, the first ledgers. It's because it was in beta. Then people call Bitcoin the beta testing. What is it called? Beta test coin.
Yeah,
If
beta
if
beta
Bitcoin is
test
the
coin.
beta if Bitcoin is the beta test coin and XRP is the real coin, then why is XRP missing ledgers while Bitcoin isn't?
Well, you can argue that the missing ledgers were just a reset on the system, and from there you can track all single transactions from the Genesis block, let's call it as it is, and from there you had a restart from the ledger. And if we look from this perspective, it would be the same to say, well, back in 2013, Bitcoin had a major bug where Bitcoins were created out of thin air. I think it was on the billions of BTC, but that was fixed a long time ago. And actually, the network has forked, and social consensus has decided which one is the real BTC. So looking back to this argument, so why would we trust Bitcoin if it had a major bug in the past, for example?
But it's different. Missing ledgers are different. As somebody who has an accounting and finance background, I know for a fact that banks aren't going to go for something that has a missing history. Like even if you were to go get a mortgage, they're going to ask you for your last 3 months of statements. And if let's say your second month of statements is missing, they're not going to give you a mortgage, right? So why would banks want to hold XRP if you don't even have an entire record of it? Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense. I don't think I don't think it's a sensible way to have a cryptocurrency. It makes absolutely no sense, because if there's a missing ledger, then what else is missing? How is the ledger missing if it's not centralized? If it was decentralized and there were multiple computers that held this ledger, then why is it that we couldn't recover the entire ledger? That makes absolutely no sense. And again, like I said, I have an accounting and finance background. I know how companies work. I know how companies audit things. Do you really think that if in the beginning 80 billion XRP was handed over to this company, Ripple, and then 20 billion were handed over to the executives, to the people, the insiders, and then they lost the first 500 transactions? Why would anybody want to hold that? I personally would never want to hold that. It feels like it's this exit liquidity for Ripple. Ripple is obviously holding 50 billion or something, 48 billion or something like that. They have them in escrow, and they're unlocking something like 1 billion. I know they haven't used all of it. I've done my research on this. So they haven't used it all in every single month. But the point is that, let's say, for example, the price goes to, as a lot of people say, $1,000, $10,000. Okay, so first of all, at $10,000, the XRP market cap will be like $10 trillion or something crazy like that, something insane. Actually, that's at $100. At $1,000, it would be at $100 trillion. So at $1,000 per XRP, the XRP that's created out of thin air would be worth more than the entire gold market. It would be worth almost the same as the equities market in the entire world. Do you not think that Ripple? Do you not think that Ripple owns 50 billion XRP? If they can sell 1 billion XRP per month, and each coin is worth $1,000, they can get $1 trillion every single month. They can get more in proceeds from selling their coin than Apple was worth just a few years ago. They can get more in proceeds from selling their coin than Tesla was worth just a few years ago. Do you not think that Ripple is going to dump their coins? They have, like I said, they have 50 billion coins at their disposal. 50 billion. The biggest holder for Bitcoin is Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows where he is. Nobody knows who he is. For all we know, he's dead. Even if Satoshi Nakamoto were to dump all 1 million coins, the impact of that 1 million coin dump would be much, much smaller than Ripple dumping 50 billion coins over the next 20, 30, however long, 40 years, however long it takes for it to finally stabilize. From what I see here, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I don't see the world adopting XRP as a reserve currency. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people already won't adopt XRP as a world reserve currency because of the fact that, I mean, it's been created out of nothing. Why would I pay for something that's been created out of nothing? My goal is to get away from fiat, not to go to another fiat.
You can't create more XRPs out of thin air. So the supply is capped, and XRP is actually a deflationary currency in opposition to Bitcoin that is actually inflationary. So you still have Bitcoins coming out, and all the XRPs are already minted. You can't have any extra XRP. So the second point, I would argue that market cap is a psychological threshold. In the same way that cryptocurrencies aren't inherently owned like stocks. So all you need to increase the prices, reduce the circulating supply. You don't need to actually increase the market cap in the same way as he is portraying as. So the thing that is, in my opinion, is a misconception that all the escrowed XRPs are still in possession of Ripple. Ripple has hundreds, if not thousands, of non-disclosure agreements with central banks all around the world. That's not my opinion, that's actually a fact. And the whole idea here, and why I truly believe in the idea of a reserve currency, is that the XRPs in escrow have been previously sold off the OTC for central banks, and that's exactly the reason why they have signed that many non-disclosure agreements with central banks. So the whole idea that Ripple is going to dump XRP, it's actually not true. A lot of people say that Ripple has been dumping XRPs. That's also very relative, because if you see who are the greatest buyers of XRP from the open markets, well, Ripple are the greatest buyer of XRP from the open market since 2020. So they unlock XRPs from the escrow. That's a steady mechanism that ensures enough liquidity. To put in other perspective, I know it's a wild comparison, but let's say if someone launches a new currency, they do need to have control over a percentage of the supply, for example, for DEX listings and other. Anyone who is in the crypto space knows that usually you do need some currency, some coins to actually get your project to succeed. So I think what Ripple does is that they ensured they would have enough XRPs, not for, as people say, dumping on retail. That doesn't make any sense, but to ensure that at the end of the day, XRP is a liquidity provider. XRP is the answer for a liquidity crisis, and the way you ensure enough liquidity is by actually having an escrow, exactly as Ripple did with XRP. So to rebate what you have said, I don't think Bitcoin would actually function as a world reserve currency. I don't think it would function as a currency either, especially for the fact that the transactions are too slow, and whenever you adopt a solution such as I said before, the Lightning networking, you are removing a lot of the interesting features of Bitcoin that made it very attractive in the beginning.
Thank you, Edo. Rajat, this is for you. I mean, why do you think, on the contrary, Bitcoin should be part of the US stockpile?
First of all, it wasn't created out of thin air. There are no missing ledgers. There is the history is completely untouched. It's the best collateral in the world. The US can use it to, if they wanted to, they can use it to create more treasuries against it, because the value will go up over time. The price will go up over time. More and more people will want it. The fact that no central party exists, you can't sue anybody, you can't stop any. Just the fact that Ripple getting sued has made XRP come down shows you that there's something fishy going on here. I can't tell you what the exact details there are. I would be speculating, but just the fact that Ripple got sued and XRP's price has slumped for like 8 years shows you that there's something going on there that probably shouldn't be happening. So Bitcoin is completely separate from any entity. There's no entity in the world that controls Bitcoin, no entity in the world that can stop Bitcoin. You'd mentioned a 51% attack. Why hasn't it happened yet? It hasn't happened yet. I think the chances of it happening decrease every single day. Every single block that's added onto the Bitcoin blockchain, every single miner that's added to the Bitcoin blockchain, people can mine Bitcoin from home. You said something like what, 35 validators for Ripple, was that it? For XRP?
Yes, there's 35.
While there are thousands and thousands of people mining Bitcoin from home, and then there's over 100,000 computers that are running nodes that are running Bitcoin Core. And if they wanted to, if Bitcoin Core did go rogue, they could easily switch over to a different Bitcoin client. I personally see that everybody's going to want Bitcoin because Bitcoin is a neutral currency. Nobody can stop it. Nobody can control it. We want censorship resistance. We want immutability. We want something that can't be stopped. It can't be changed. And that's what Bitcoin is. We know for a fact that nobody has been able to make a change to Bitcoin that hurts everybody else. On the other hand, like I said, the first XRP tokens were given to Ripple. Ripple went from 80 billion XRP to something like 48 billion, 50 billion, something like that. Where did those XRP tokens go? Why did they sell those tokens? On the other hand, let's say Satoshi Nakamoto, you can say that, oh, he received a million tokens, a million Bitcoin right from the beginning, but he didn't. He mined them. He competed with everybody else to mine those Bitcoin. You can check on the blockchain. You can see all of the Bitcoin are still there. They haven't even been spent. They're still there. So I don't know. I don't see a reason for anybody to adopt XRP as a world reserve currency. I do see a reason for the world to adopt Bitcoin as a world reserve currency because the entire world is going to use it as money. If the entire world starts using a neutral money, then and if you don't have any of it, then what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to transact globally. On the other hand, with XRP, nobody has started using it yet. Nobody's using it as a store of value. People are speculating. They're expecting that it'll go to $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 per coin for whatever reason. They think that it's going to follow Bitcoin's path, but I don't see that. I feel like it's purely manipulated. Even if you look at the recent move in XRP's price, it gained like 40-50% within a month. On the other hand, with Bitcoin, there's a slow grind up. And the reason for that is that adoption takes time. Growth is never linear. Growth is always going to be volatile. With Bitcoin, even if you have some drops, some sideways movements, to me, it doesn't really matter because to me, Bitcoin is the exit. I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin for fiat. My goal is to sell my Bitcoin for goods and services. And I already have people who are willing to accept Bitcoin for goods and services. That's what makes it the world reserve currency. That's what makes it the global store of value, the medium of exchange, the thing that we want to use as money, not XRP. I've never met anybody who wants to spend their XRP. What people want is they want to exit their XRP at some point. I've seen multiple videos. I've seen videos from different content creators who are saying, I'm going to sell my XRP at this point, then I'm going to sell more at this point. This is my long-term bag. This is my short-term bag. For me, there is no long-term and short-term bag. All of my Bitcoin is savings. I plan to hold it for as long as I possibly can. And I think that the US government should be doing exactly the same thing. I personally don't care if they do or don't. Bitcoin is going to go up regardless of whether the US government adopts it. It's going to increase no matter what because the people who understand Bitcoin will always want more. On the other hand, the people who seem to understand XRP want to sell what they have, and that's the trend that I've seen. So why would the US government want to hold something, first of all, that has the missing ledgers, that doesn't have a complete history? Number two, why would the US government want to hold something that was handed over to somebody else for free? Ripple, like I said, received 80 billion coins for free. Why would the US government want to buy a billion of those coins? There's no reason for it. I don't see a reason for it. So I mean that's my point. I think Bitcoin is the only thing that deserves to be kept as a strategic stockpile. Strategic stockpile should be of commodities, not securities.
So I agree that the stockpile shouldn't have securities, and as a matter of law, XRP has deemed is not a security at all. So that can't be debatable anymore. The SEC has already decided. Actually, Judge Torres has ruled that XRP is not a security. So just just answering that one. You mentioned before that XRP Ledger has 35 validators versus thousands of BTC miners. However, a 51% attack, I would argue that it's much more easy to achieve something malicious on Bitcoin networking than it is on the XRP ledger, because there is no financial incentivation for validators to actually validate transactions. The same is not true for Bitcoin miners. They are actually incentivized by money, and it's much more easier to coerce them to actually make changes. Let's say, as I said before, a 51% attack. You can have a government player that comes out and imposes new regulations and threatens the mining pools, the mining facilities. And I would argue that it's much more easy to actually get something malicious done against the Bitcoin networking than it is on the XRP ledger, where you need 80% consensus versus just 51% on Bitcoin, which is actually achievable with 2 or 3 of the greatest mining pools. So that's to say that, in my opinion, XRP is more decentralized than Bitcoin. And the other point, I would argue that, well, he said if anyone in the world comes to use use Bitcoin as a currency, but actually I want to ask him this question. You know that the more usage there is for Bitcoin networking, the higher the transaction fees they get, because ultimately the network gets congested. So how is that Bitcoin is going to handle so many transactions when the majority of us are going to actually end up priced out? I mean, if everyone on Earth would use Bitcoin, they could only do 2 transactions at a lifetime. So without answering with Lightning networking, how would actually that be possible?
It's layers. I mean, that's like saying, how would you send wire transfers every day without Visa? How would you go to the grocery store and pay for your groceries without Visa and MasterCard, without Amex? How would you, how many times have you sent a wire transfer?
A couple of times only. I don't use a lot wire transfer, but
So the fact that you're not using wire transfers means that you're not using the base layer of money for the entire world,
well, but I
right?
think it's far more of a greater solution to just replace the layer 1. I don't see any reason why we would keep the layer 1 if we have better solutions, just like is the case for the XRP ledger for payments. Why wouldn't we use the XRP ledger? Why would we rely on layer 2 protocols that are actually removing a lot of the key features of Bitcoin blockchain?
If we're looking for faster and cheaper, why wouldn't we just stick to fiat?
Well, because fiat doesn't have all the keys of blockchain. You are comparing horses to cars. In this case, we are talking about 2 blockchains. Fiat currencies are not blockchain, so we can't make that comparison either.
I mean, the point of blockchain is to make sure that people can't manipulate each other, right? The point of the Bitcoin base layer is to make sure that nobody can add Bitcoin to the base layer without everybody else seeing it. The fact that you get a mining reward and that's what creates Bitcoin and adds it to the economy, and the fact that there's a competition to mine for Bitcoin to create it and add it to the economy just shows you what, like, the fact that you have to put in time, effort, and energy to create more Bitcoin, and anybody can do it in the world. That shows you that there is a value to it. The people who are willing to put in their time, energy, and effort to get Bitcoin, the fact that it's non KYC, they will mine for Bitcoin regardless. If we go back to the point that you said that there's 35 validators in XRP and there's thousands of miners in Bitcoin, and that number is just exponentially growing, and that XRP is more decentralized because there's 35 versus thousands. I mean, that's a disconnect right there. I don't know if I quite understand your point there. The fact that there are 35 versus thousands, and those thousands are constantly changing. Those thousands are, some of those thousands can go bankrupt. Like, let's say, for example, there was one, something Core Scientific, I think it was. I don't remember what it was. In 2022, they went, one of the big miners went bankrupt because they couldn't operate. The mining rewards weren't big enough for them to pay for their cost of mining, and they didn't have enough money saved. They didn't have enough Bitcoin saved. I believe it was Core Scientific. I'm not sure of the exact miner, but they went bankrupt. That's what shows you that this is capitalism. It's decentralized. Nobody cares if that miner went bankrupt. On the other hand, let's say, for example, if Ripple was about to go bankrupt, they have these 50 billion XRP. You don't think they're going to sell some of their XRP? It's like playing a game of Monopoly where the banker can just keep getting more and more money from the bank, and they can keep funding themselves. They can keep paying the rent that they have to pay with money that they basically got out of nothing. They didn't have to work for it. They didn't have to earn it. They didn't have to earn it from buying properties and building them up. They just got that money out of nothing. That money was sitting there. They got it out of nothing, and they can now spend it into the economy. They can find other people to dump it on. I don't see that being a problem. Okay, so I see that being a massive problem. I don't see that being a solution. Okay, so the next one you said, higher transaction fees. Transaction fees are like 23 cents right now for a base layer transaction with settlement. That's extremely cheap. How much does it take to transfer gold from place to place? It could cost you millions of dollars. If you wanted to move 1.5, actually this happened a few days ago. If you wanted to move 1.5 billion dollars worth of Bitcoin, you could do it for a few cents. Somebody did it for like 75 cents. On the other hand, with gold has been around for thousands of years. Gold has no partnerships. There's no central authority. There's no escrow of some company that owns the majority of gold and they're trying to bring liquidity to the market. None of that is the case. Gold has been money for thousands of years. Bitcoin replaces gold by being a neutral form of money, a decentralized form of money that nobody can control. Anybody can create more of it. Anybody can, as long as they compete with other people in the market. You also mentioned earlier that the supply of Bitcoin keeps going up. I don't buy Bitcoin based on the current supply. I buy it based on the ultimate 21 million supply. The fact that there are going to be 21 million, the fact that I know that there are going to be 21 million, 99% of it is going to be issued by 2034, 2035. All of that just tells me that Bitcoin is it's the best store of value ever. Nobody can change it. Nobody can. If there was a way to change it, it would have been changed already. If governments could stop it, they would have stopped it already. My goal here with Bitcoin is to get away from banks. I don't want to use banks. Lightning works perfectly fine. I've used Lightning multiple times. I've had no issues with it. You don't need final settlement on every transaction. Let's say, for example, if you're going to go to a convenience store and you're going to buy a pen for $2, why do you need final settlement on that? There's no reason for it. You're just wasting block space if you're trying to get final settlement on a $2 transaction. Lightning takes congestion off the base layer. Lightning makes it so that more people can transact, more people can actually send money to and from other people. They can do millions of transactions every second. Like I said before, financial systems are built in layers. They're not built on the base layer. We have the blockchain trilemma. It seems like XRP chose to have faster transactions and they chose to have cheaper transactions, but they clearly gave up decentralization. On the other hand, Bitcoin focused on decentralization. They focused on security. I don't know how secure XRP is. I can't comment on that. But Bitcoin focused on decentralization and security. The goal here was to make sure that we don't need banks anymore. On the other hand, XRP seems to be working on helping banks. They're working with banks. They literally have partnerships with banks. Which bank has a partnership with Bitcoin? None of them, because there's no partnerships there. Which bank has a partnership with gold? None of them.
Well, first, I think the reason why we are heavily invested in XRP is because ultimately banks want to use the best alternative. Banks want the faster solution, and that happens to be XRP. Now, I don't want nothing to do with the banks personally. I don't really think in the future I want to be relying on the banking system. But if I do have the opportunity to capitalize, to be an early investor in a technology that's going to be widely adopted by financial institutions, then I'm taking this opportunity, and that's why I am heavily invested in XRP. Now, again, you said that XRP is centralized. I have to disagree with that, as I already said. Always the argument that Ripple owns XRP doesn't work out, because ownership of tokens doesn't equal to control over the networking. So Ripple bears no control over the XRP ledger. In fact, in the past, there has been occasions where they tried to implement a few changes on the XRP ledger, and the community simply turned the changes down. Basically, it has been a very realistic demonstration that Ripple doesn't control the XRP ledger. Now, the fact that it has so many fundamental features, just like you can tokenize anything of value on the XRP ledger. You have the first built-in DEX that has ever existed, where you can tokenize gold, you can tokenize dollars, you can even tokenize Bitcoin on the XRP ledger. And I think you can't do the same on Bitcoin blockchain. If we see the white paper of Bitcoin, and you see that early Bitcoin developers fundamentally understood many of the flaws. And at some point, you can even speculate that the same people who created XRP also created Bitcoin, because Satoshi, let's be honest, from my perspective, is just not some random Japanese guy sitting on a cave. If Satoshi wallet, the dormant wallet of Satoshi, would to wake up and sell all his Bitcoins at market price, you have said before that wouldn't have a great impact on the price. But actually, I don't agree with you. I think that would have a tremendous effect, not only by the sales itself. I mean, yes, selling one Bitcoin.
I know there's going to be a decrease in price. I know that for a fact. For all we know, if Satoshi dumps all 1 million coins, the price will go to like $500. I know that for a fact, but it'll be snapped
Yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
even.
my. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I was thinking that before you said that it wouldn't affect the price. I think even conception in the conception, considering that Bitcoin is also a social construct, because what we decided is the right Bitcoin, let's say from previous forks, is that the majority has agreed that this Bitcoin is the right Bitcoin rather than Bitcoin Cash, for instance. So I think the fact that there is Satoshi dormant wallet is no different than Ripple holding, let's say, 40 billion XRPs that are in escrow, and the fact that they are in escrow also prevents them from, let's say, maliciously, considering they wake up tomorrow and they decide they want to sell their XRPs, they are not able to dump a substantial percentage of the XRPs because the XRPs are locked in escrow for this specific reason. So I think there's a lot of the misconceptions about XRP from people who are mainly invested in Bitcoin. And I think these things are not great for the industry. I think for one to succeed, the other doesn't have to fail, you know?
What's the point of tokenizing gold?
It's not about tokenizing gold. It's what tokenization solves, what problem solves tokenization. So we have a digital representation of assets. And I think the key feature there is because it's very difficult to move gold across the world geographically. If you have to transport large sums of gold, that's quite difficult. And if you tokenize gold, you can actually move gold faster. You don't need really, let's say you want to invest in gold. Why would you want to hold physical gold if you can actually buy the tokenized version of gold? I think that's the key advantage. You might disagree with me and share your perspective on that.
But you said that Lightning is a problem because Lightning is you're not getting all the benefits of Bitcoin by using Lightning. I don't see a reason. Why would I want to tokenize gold? I don't get it. Like the fact that gold can be used in electronics, the fact that gold can be used in jewelry. Can you use tokenized gold in jewelry and electronics?
You can't, but you can have the benefits of the scarcity of gold actually going up in price by buying
even
the
that,
tokenized version.
in terms of Bitcoin, that's not happening though. Okay, so I think the difference here is that the way that I see it, Bitcoin is the only thing that's going to be valued as money. It's the only thing that's going to have monetary value, a monetary premium. I personally think that Bitcoin is going to replace gold. That's where I think the world is going, because Bitcoin is digital gold. It has all of the characteristics that gold has, other than, of course, the physical utility. But that just makes it so that gold is going to decrease in price over time. That means that we're going to be able to use gold in more of our electronics. We're going to be more efficient as a world. We're going to, I think it's called the Kardashev scale. We're going to go from a 0.6 or something, I think the numbers are, where we're pretty low on that scale, to a much, much higher level on that scale because of the efficiency, because of the fact that people won't be holding gold as a savings vehicle. People won't just be keeping it in their wallets. They're not going to be tokenizing gold and holding it with some centralized authority. You don't need to do that anymore. I've seen people say, oh, you can tokenize houses with XRP, but what's the point of that? Why would I want a tokenized house? That makes absolutely no sense to me. Again, like I said, I think Bitcoin is going to demonetize real estate because Bitcoin is such a great store of value. People don't need to hold real estate. They don't need to hoard real estate to save for the future. So what Bitcoin is going to do is it's going to pretty much make all of this tokenization irrelevant. What's the point of tokenizing gold? I don't see the point of that. The reason why we hold gold is to use it for our industrial processes. We use gold for making electronics. We use gold for you can use gold as a paperweight. What does tokenized gold give me? Nothing. It's just a digit on a screen. It's a centralized coin that somebody's holding on my behalf. Why would I want that if I can just hold on to Bitcoin? There's no like the utility that people say that XRP has. I don't quite see it being utility. I think that it's just to me it's just buzzwords. There's no point of tokenizing gold. There's no point of tokenizing silver, platinum, houses. There's no point of tokenizing these things because you want them to use in the real world. This is why I think that Bitcoin is better. Bitcoin doesn't claim to have utility. Bitcoin is straight up just money. It's a store of value. It separates money from everything else. Today we've become this corrupted society where the wealthy buy as many houses as they can. They hoard as much gold as they can. They don't allow houses to be owned by the people, the end users. They don't allow gold to be used by manufacturers. They hoard as much of it as they can because they're speculating on the future value of gold. They're speculating on the future value of houses. What Bitcoin does is it takes all of that speculation out of those markets and it moves it into Bitcoin. I think XRP is going to continue having us speculate on other things because of the tokenization, for example, because XRP can't be used as a store of value.
And by the way, I've been trying to take myself out as much as possible so you guys could have a conversation. And thank you for being so
You're doing
polite.
a great job. I feel like the questions that you're asking are awesome. I feel like you've been giving us the support to do what we need to.
He's a great host. You handle
Great
it very
moderator.
smoothly. The transitions are also awesome. It's not distracting us. It's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate. All right, we can do this. Edo, why don't you close your argument?
The industry doesn't need tribalism. I think in the end, for me, for example, being an XRP holder, I would love to see XRP and Bitcoin to succeed in the future, even though I'm not sure if that's going to be the reality. I think also the fact that gold is a timeless asset that has been there for centuries. So I wouldn't consider gold as being finished as he's portraying. I think it's too early for that. We can't even be sure if digital assets, and I'm also talking for XRP, honestly, I don't have the certainty that digital assets are going to thrive for the next 50 years, 100 years, 500 years. We are just a couple of years if we put on a bigger scale with digital assets. So everything is still very new. But I do know for a fact that one of the greatest issues for Bitcoin blockchain is the scalability issues. And I think that's going to be the greatest reason why it's going to be hard for Bitcoin to succeed on the long term. I think on the short term, it still can work out. On the middle term, I'm not even sure, but I think on the long term, considering the scalability issues, is going to be very difficult. And I don't really see a reason why we should be integrating layer 2 protocols when we have far better layer 1 solutions, just like is the case of the XRP ledger. Now he said XRP is not a store of value. Well, it has not been designed to be a store of value, even though it can become a store of value because it has been designed for payments and it has succeeded on the payments realm and on the tokenization. So all the features of the XRP ledger makes it, in my opinion, the best blockchain to transact, the most efficient one, the one that has the lowest energy consumption, also compared to BTC. That's also one of the challenges for Bitcoin blockchain. So I think ultimately we're gonna see XRP being widely adopted. I also see it as a world reserve currency, and I want to say special thanks for the both of you. It was a great discussion.
Fantastic. Thank you. Rajat, take it over.
I appreciate you as well, Edo. I really appreciate you coming on and talk to me about this. I learned a lot today. I think that Bitcoin is not just going to replace fiat. I think it's going to replace everything. I think it's going to replace everything that we use as a store of value. We just buy things because we want to save for the future. From this conversation, I've learned a little bit more that XRP is supposed to replace fiat from what I see here. It's supposed to be a way to help banks transact with one another, individuals transact peer to peer. But the way that I see it, the price of something is increased based on people wanting to hold it. If like even we said it in this conversation, banks and governments don't actually need to hold XRP in order to transact. So okay, let's say let's say they want to use XRP, they can use it, and the price doesn't have to go up. So why would you want to hold it? That's what I don't quite understand. I personally think that Bitcoin is the best form of money out there because it has that inelastic supply. Everything else becomes more abundant in terms of Bitcoin over time because more and more people are fighting to create everything else. Bitcoin is going to lead to prosperity, it's going to lead to abundance and literally everything that we want. I personally think on a Bitcoin standard, once we do go to a Bitcoin standard, I'm not so confident that digital assets aren't going to work out. I'm actually pretty confident that Bitcoin is going to be around longer than almost any other entity in the world. It's going to be around longer than the US government. At least that's what I think. At least in the current capacity. I think Bitcoin is going to be around longer than the US dollar. Bitcoin is going to be around longer than all the banks that we have today. Keep in mind, banks have only been around for 100 years, 200, 300 years. Like the majority of banks that we have in the US, I'm in Canada, but the majority of banks in the US have only been around for a couple hundred years. It's not like they've been around for life. Bitcoin replaces gold. Gold is being used as money because of its characteristics, because it's scarce. It has a 1 to 2% inflation rate. Bitcoin's inflation rate currently from the 19.8 to 21 million. Right now, it's at about 0.8% per year. So it's blown gold out of the water. If people weren't speculating on gold, I think the price would decrease significantly. I think we would have, like I said, a more efficient world, better electronics, better technology. I personally think that the world would be improved massively on a Bitcoin standard because Bitcoin separates money from utility.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. Edo, thank you so much, man. I'll see you tomorrow in Dubai for a coffee. Rajat, it's been an absolute
Absolutely.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you having us, and make sure that you follow this guy here. I think his content is great. I've watched tons of his, both of yours actually. I've watched tons of your videos. I think you guys make some solid points on what you're trying to get across.
He has been a great host. Also, you did a great job with your points, and so it has been a pleasure.
Whenever you foster conversation, sometimes, people let the emotions take over. So thank you for being so polite and share your point of view. Then it's up to the public to decide where they want to put their money, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Bye for now.